What's up, y'all? You know what time it is? It's about to be that time.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
And we're back. Today we're going to broadly use the developments from chapter 1118 to theorize on events that could change the course of the final war. So if you're not caught up to the manga, this is your only warning to jump ship. And with that out of the way, like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. One Piece has now seen its second character to go Super Saiyan.
You know what? I go 2 more for y'all.
Longtime fans of the channel will remember that I speculated as far back as the Gear 5 reveal that this transformation of Luffy's will likely not be exclusive and could very well be non-exclusive to Bonney as well. In fact, I'm expecting this to not only be the pinnacle of all devil fruits, but perhaps the pinnacle of natural evolution in the One Piece world. And yeah, that sounds crazy and I'll likely lose some people with this concept, but the ideas presented with Bonney having her own Nika form have divided the fandom in ways not seen since chapter 1005, where Sanji was yelling for help against Black Maria. Now, I'm no Oda angel, I'll call it out when I'm iffy on something in the story, but, I always try to let him present things the way that he's going to present them. Let's let everything play out. And I'm going to set out in this video to explain what I believe Oda's rationale is with this idea, and why I personally am fine with it, as none of it deviates from my own perceived understanding of Oda's true message of the story. First, the true message of the story. Inspiration. Going after your dreams against insurmountable odds. The crew truly has outlandish, impossible-sounding dreams, and that's on purpose. I want to be a brave warrior. How do you measure that? I want to map the whole world. That's wild. I want to be the Pirate King. What does that even mean? But One Piece is a journey of making the impossible possible. Luffy, by achieving his peak, is now able to manifest anything that he wants out of thin air. If you think it, you can do it. This goes back to chapter 218, where the narrator tells us a quote from the in-world, not real-world, physicist Willie Gallen. Everything that humans can imagine can happen in reality. This was a thesis statement from Oda that permeates through the very fibers of the story, and those fibers have been taking shape in big ways over the past few years. In 1069, Vegapunk theorized that all things are brought into this world with hope, including the devil fruits, which doubles down on the Willie Gallen quote, suggesting that the devil fruits are manifestations of the wills of the people. Someone decided one day that they really wanted to slow things down, dreamed of it, and Foxy's Noro fruit appeared on a tree, or on a fruit somewhere. This is the pinnacle of human evolution. Our brains are locked by society and cultural norms to follow certain rules and paths. Oda is the ultimate nonconformist, raised in one of the most conformist societies on the planet. Many religions focus on the idea of spiritual enlightenment, and Nika as a concept was in many ways a messianic figure. And messianism is not exclusive to Christianity or Catholicism. Even Buddha can be considered a messianic figure. Nika was likely going around in the past, enlightening the masses, and, so to speak, opening their third eyes to an entire fifth dimension, like Mr. Mxyzptlk from DC. Or the Acme cartoon characters, who always have various pocket dimension objects ready. Although, the characters of the One Piece world of old had another name for enlightenment. They called it liberation. And Bonney, a character who spent her entire life trapped in a church until she could set out to sea to be like her idol, instilled into her by her devout father, finally met that idol, and what did Luffy do? In the most absolute Luffy way, he liberated her. No longer did Bonney dream of a distorted-ish future. She gave her first concrete, distorted future, manifesting and speaking her desire into existence. She became Nika through sheer willpower. And based on the Sulong transformation, turning the minks into Nika-like figures and the Tamate pills, augmenting the new Fishman pirates into Nika-like figures, I do not believe that this will be exclusive to Devil Fruit users only. In fact, I truly would not be surprised if in the final war, as I said years ago after connecting the Tamate pills and Sulong to Gear 5 following 1044, I would not be surprised if the final war involves Gear 5 everyone. Maybe not everyone, but certainly a veritable army of Nika-powered individuals. I believe that the Tamate pills were a technological product created to replicate the power of Nika, but the drawback of the pills likely comes because they are missing the key factor needed to power the pills. Belief. Belief comes into play in a big way thanks to Saturn spelling it out for us around 1103, when he basically told us, paraphrasing, that Bonney's wavering beliefs were making her weaker. Meaning, if she were unburdened and liberated, her power would be limitless, especially given her fruit as is allows her to everywhere, everything, all at once, tap into various possible timelines of abilities. I still would really love for her to say, give me a Zoro future, a Zoro-ish future, and suddenly she knows Santoryu, etc., for the rest of the crew. Bonney being able to change into Nika bodes well for the possibility of Bonney for Straw Hat. Whether she does or not, or joins the Revolutionary Army, doesn't matter, but Oda is clearly trying to make the most effective child character in the story yet. Many One Piece fans in general have been with the series a while. Potentially having grown up with it, we may identify with different characters that we didn't when we were younger. But there's an entirely new set of fans coming up, reading the story. And they might be starting right here. Bonney's for them more than she is for us. And given that Oda has daughters of his own, it's a way for him to bring that experience into the manga. A way to honor his girls. She could be set up here as the apprentice we thought Tama and Momo could be during Wano. Bonney could be the Robin to Luffy's Batman, the Godzuki to his Godzilla, the character created to give the younger audience a POV character that they can relate to. A way to full circle and cycle the theme of the story that's set up in Chapter 1. That you have to bring up the youth, give them something to strive for, and show them that dreams aren't impossible. But it's also a macro look at real-world generations and their ways of thinking. Something that Bonney getting this power without having the hard work that Luffy went through is cheap. I think that Bonney had some struggles of her own to get here, but yes, it was easier for her. Why? Because Luffy made it easier. He's choosing not to be Shanks. The anime recently covered the young Elbaf boy who was a clear stand-in for Luffy, and Shanks was back on his Gen X mindset of avoidance and playfully tearing the youth down with tough love to make him stronger, prove himself. Luffy's millennial mindset is more open to allowing the Gen Z or Gen Alpha Bonney to just have the dream without the heartache. And it's not Shanks' fault either. The boomers of Roger and Rayleigh's era had their own forms of tough love that likely built Shanks' worldview. It may not be entirely this, but Oda's clearly trying to say something with the way that he tackles generations, going as far as to even put Luffy in the worst generation, a label appointed by older people in the government with a back-in-my-day mentality. And I believe the Gorosei fear the Nika fruit for these reasons. It is the key to unlocking and awakening the locked pathways in the brain that tell you you can't do that. Bonney was locked in a church her whole life. No one ever told her she couldn't be a giant or Nika. So she did. She became both and more. For 800, 900 years, the government has been 1984ing the world into believing that they can't be anything in this world, fearing that another group will try to knock them off their lofty perch. Joy Boy likely rode into his war against the 20 Kings with an army of Nika-powered individuals. Personally, I would love it if it was still my original theory from way back that Joy Boy created the Tamate pills to replicate his power and had his whole army abuse the pills during the fight, were winning handedly, and then lost because they all shriveled up and turned old before they could win. The difference here would be that Joy Boy relied on a substance or a cheat to power his army, and Luffy has the potential to do what Joy Boy did without cheating, without substances. Luffy could have an army by inspiring his side to will themselves into that power. The drawback would still be there, it's a heavy toll, but it likely wouldn't be as drastic as the pills, and would likely be easier to come back from. Let's talk about hockey.
Today, I'm talking about hockey. Yeah, I'm gonna do that hockey. Yes, I am.
For years, it was left translated in the manga as ambition or will before we had any understanding that Oda was actively creating a named power system. Rayleigh calls armament hockey an invisible suit of armor around your body, and we now exist in a One Piece world where in Gear 5, Luffy is manifesting physical objects out of thin air. But we've seen hockey users do this the entire time. We've seen Rokushiki users do this, especially with Tekai. If you're creating an invisible suit of armor, you are manifesting and reshaping your own willpower into that armor. Conquerors, you are physically smacking someone with your aura. You are making the intangible tangible. This goes back to Kaido's line that devil fruits don't matter, it's all about hockey. Why? Because the Nika form likely isn't a product of Luffy's fruit, as much as it is the highest peak of hockey achievable by anyone. All of this to say that I would not be surprised if we see a rollout of Nika versions of the Straw Hats and top-tier combatants. I would expect the devil fruit users like Robin, Chopper, and Brook to achieve this super awakening or enlightenment first, this liberation. It was brought up in the stream that should Brook achieve this, he could in theory will his body back when he transforms, and I think that would be a crazy way to show the transformation, even if it's not his actual skin, but rather the deity flames take the shape of his original face. Chopper would just look like he's going Sulong, and Oda showing the Rumble Balls activating the Sulong transformation by way of Beppo should be key here, especially given the Tamate pills. It's now likely that the Rumble Balls and Tamate pills share similar traits. They could be like, aspirin and Advil, or acetaminophen and ibuprofen. Both will break your fever, but have a few differences.
Ain't bad, y'all. Ain't bad for somebody who doesn't know hockey.
The biggest change of all will come when we see a non-devil fruit powered individual make this leap. It may never happen. Perhaps I'm completely off base, but if I am, then physicist Willie Gallen in chapter 218 is lying. And I now would love a version of give me a future where I am the most brave, and we as an audience will have a tangible visual indicator that Usopp has finally achieved his dream, just like with Bonney. A Nika version of Usopp with all of the powers of manifestation at his disposal would be OP and rival Luffy in terms of imagination. It would essentially give Usopp everything I wanted when I thought, as the painter of the crew, he could potentially end up with Conjuro's fruit during Wano. Or going back to Oda saying that if Usopp was going to have a fruit at all in the One Piece magazine, it would be Blumenko's Pocket Dimension fruit. Going Nika would give Usopp a pocket dimension. But it goes so much deeper than that because Usopp achieving a Gear 5 or Nika form would follow through on all of the Dressrosa foreshadowing, including his bounty poster calling him God Usopp. During Little Garden, Usopp expressed that he wanted to be just like Dorian Brogy. Well, with a Nika form, he would literally be able to do that by becoming a giant himself. He would go from calling Dorian Brogy master all the way to them bowing to him as their god. I personally don't see a better ending to Usopp's journey than this. And by creating the physics-breaking Climateact and all of his gadgets, Usopp has basically been proving Willie Gallen right this entire story. Anything that humans can dream of is possible in reality. And if Oda is truly trying to hammer in that message, then there is absolutely no character in the story that this concept would hit harder with than the man who considered himself to be the most negative person in the world. It would be Luffy's greatest achievement if he is able to inspire Usopp to reach this height, the same way that Bonney did. The character with the most mental blocks in the story, breaking each of them down to liberate his mind and free himself of all burden. The character Oda designed to be the reader, to be the most human amongst a crew of monsters, showing the readers that truly anything is possible. Poetry in motion. And I also would not be surprised if some of the top tier combatants, such as Shanks, already are able to access an ability like this. And potentially, say Shanks has a Nika form, it's very possible that he's able to will another arm, either with deity flames or just make it a manifestation of his willpower. We've seen a lot of crazy things in the story, and with everything that's been happening lately, I really don't think that that's too far out there. But I do think that we're getting an entire crew, or at the very least, half of the crew will get liberated by Luffy and enter a new Super Saiyan state of being free. And all of this ties back to one of Oda's preeminent inspirations as well, Peter Pan, a story that hammers the idea that what you believe can be reality. It is a story that uses belief as a unit of power, a tool of resurrection even. Someone said Bonney going Nika is like if Toriyama had Krillin go Super Saiyan. And honestly, 10-year-old, 12-year-old Randy would have loved that. I used to dream about Yamcha getting his due and going Super Saiyan, even though he was a human, you know. Oda is just giving the kid versions of people like me that wish. So none of this is a bad development. There are plenty of ways that it could go bad, but all of this has been foreshadowed in this arc and throughout the entire story, or at least, you know, especially in the second half of the story since the time skip from Fishman Island on. This is a culmination of what Oda wants One Piece to truly be. His manga of dreams. If you dream it, you can do it. So go after your dreams, everybody. Like, comment, subscribe if you're feeling the vibe. And if you made it to the end and like the ideas presented in the video and would like to manifest them, comment #SunGodUsopp.
I don't mind doing that hockey. I just want to talk that hockey. What can I say? Told you I'd be around, watching you.
Savage.